welcome to my channel. My name is Kim if you are new here, and today I am going to share with you two different soups that I make with one whole chicken. So I'm going to cook it in Instant Pot, and I'm going to show you what I do to make it into two different soups for a wonderful meal. I'm going to start with this chicken. I'm going to put it in the Instant Pot, and then I'm going to shred it up, and I'm going to make two different kinds of chicken soup. I'm gonna make chicken noodle soup and then chicken and dumplings for dinner. We are not feeling great around here, mostly just the kids. Some are on the mend and some are in it. My husband and I are feeling okay. I feel like some homemade chicken soup is needed for our dinner today, and I will show you how I do it. So I love my Instant Pot for making meat pretty quickly, and I'm gonna pressure cook it for 45 minutes. It's about 8 minutes. If it's thawed, it's about 8 minutes for each pound of chicken. So however big your chicken is, 8 minutes per pound. Okay, here is the chicken that I have shredded after it has been cooked in the Instant Pot. It was perfectly cooked, so there's some of that nice some broth. It's really fatty because the skin and everything was on when it cooked, but I will divide it between the two different soups I'll be making. That way we'll get some of that good broth in with our other broth. This is the white meat mostly, and this is the dark meat, and I use this for the chicken and dumplings and this for the chicken noodle soup. And then these are the bones that I have left after I've shredded it all, and I will put those in the freezer and use for a different time for making some broth.
Shut up.
Maybe just for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, here is what the broth is looking like for my chicken noodle soup. So I have 2 bags of frozen chicken broth that I had made. I don't can my chicken broth at this moment. I don't have a pressure canner, and so I just freeze it. So I have it with some other broth and then some of that kind of more gelatinous stuff that cooked out of it when I Instant Pot cooked the chicken. Huh, that's a sentence for you. Okay, so this is going to melt and get all hot and bubbly, and then I am going to start adding the things that I need for my chicken noodle soup. While the broth is melting, I am going to add in my carrots because the carrots need to cook a little bit longer than the rest of the stuff. And I just want to give it time to get all soft. So while the chicken noodle soup broth is melting, I am going to be working on the chicken and dumplings. And here I am. I'm making a little bit of a roux because I like my chicken and dumpling broth to be just a little bit thicker. I just use, my roux recipe is equal parts flour and butter, and kind of mix it all together. Remember, if you want a really thick, if you want your roux to make things really thick, you don't let it cook for as long, and it'll thicken things up really good. But if you want it to be a little bit thinner, but just kind of thick, you can cook it a little bit longer. I don't know if that made sense, but the longer you cook your roux before putting the liquid in it, the thicker things will be. And I'm only going to cook mine for like a minute or two until it starts to get all bubbly like that, and now I'm going to start adding in the broth. Okay, so I don't have exact measurements, but I'm going to give you about my best guess for the broth. I've been making this for so many years, I just kind of do what I feel like. So I had the roux, which was I did 5 tablespoons of flour and 5 tablespoons of butter, and then I added about a half quart of frozen of the frozen broth, and then I added one of these that I get from Aldi, and that is 32 ounces. So that's what I'm going to add to that, and then it will thicken up after it starts getting hot again and this broth melts. It's not going to be thick like gravy, but I don't want it thick like gravy because I'm going to cook the dumplings in it as well. Okay, now that the chicken noodle soup broth is all melted and getting steamy, I am going to put the chicken in it. The carrots are not cooked yet, and it needs to cook a bit before I put the noodles in and season it. Woo! But I'm going to add the chicken. Lots of big chunks of chicken and carrots. And that's pretty much, besides the noodles, all I put in it. And I will season it up, and I'll share that with you. But this is all of the white meat from a whole chicken. So this is the dry mixture and the butter for the dumplings. This is the recipe that I am using. And I'm going to add the milk and mix it up. Just hold it on there for a second. Okay, we're going to season my soups. I don't measure this as well, but I do just kind of sprinkle on. I would say that's probably half teaspoon to a teaspoon of garlic powder. There's some black pepper. Again, that's probably about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. And some pink salt. Probably about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon, but it's based on what you like and what your family likes. Okay. Now I'm going to add the dark meat chicken. Maybe. Goodness. Okay. And you see how it's a little bit creamy but not thick like gravy? That's just what I want. So I want this cooked just a little bit more while I season up my chicken noodle soup. Okay, chicken noodle soup is cooking away. The carrots are still not quite done, but I'm going to season this. And I'll put the noodles in just a little bit. Okay, I like to add some ground thyme. There we go, ground thyme. Thyme is supposed to be really good if you have any illness. I like to add it into my broth because it makes it taste delicious. Again, this is garlic powder. Just add as much as you want. It's probably about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon. We like our chicken broth to taste garlicky. Black pepper. And salt again. If you're new to using pink salt is not as salty as table salt, and so you'll end up using a little bit more. It also takes a little bit longer to dissolve, so you want to put it in a little earlier in your broths. Okay, so I added a few more seasonings to this one. My husband wanted some green seasoning. He wanted some herbs in it, and I put some ground thyme, some ground sage, and a little bit of basil in there, dried basil, and that'll give it a nice herby flavor. Now I'm going to put the dumplings in. I like to drop them in by finger, that way I know where they're all going. I don't pile too many on top of each other. But be careful when you're doing this, because if you drop it from too high up, it'll splash back and burn you. Okay, then we're going to cover this and let it cook for a little bit. Stop it. It is time to add the noodles. Now, you don't want to put too many noodles in because it will suck up all the broth and it'll be all noodles and less soup. And honestly, homemade chicken noodle soup leftover ends up being that way. The noodles just sitting in the broth all night will soak up all of it and get really thick. But that's okay because it's still delicious. I'm going to put a few more in. My kids tend to eat it really well with plenty of noodles. And this is a small batch, so I don't expect there to be lots of leftovers anyway. I used these noodles and about half of the bag. Okay, looks good. You shut that off. So I cooked the dumplings for about 10 minutes, maybe 15 with the lid on. And now I'm gonna cook them a little bit, maybe 5 with the lid off, and then we can dish it up. And here, the chicken noodle soup. See how the noodles are all cooked? Ooh, maybe you can't, hold on. See how they're all cooked? And it's ready to eat. And when I first put it in, it did not look like enough noodles, and now it looks like plenty. Well, thank you for watching. I hope that you have got some inspiration from this, or some enjoyment or something. We are going to enjoy some nice warm soup. It is kind of cold today, and it'll be a very yummy dinner. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.